Om Niranjandas Niranjandas Chakshurmilitadhyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manavistam Stavita Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Adati Swapranikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gopal Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So yesterday we spoke on the glories of the holy name. And in the class this morning, just like this baby is crying, one day we were all crying. And now as you get older, you forget it. So, this morning we spoke from the 7th canto, where Yudhishthira was questioning how did Dandavakra and Shishupala, the cousins of the Lord, merge into the body of the Lord. This evening, I believe that you want to discuss Prabhupada's, Samir told me to speak on Prabhupada's visit to Montreal, because it's going to be this. Prabhupada came to Montreal on June 1st, 1968. So, how many years is that? 41? 68. So how are you celebrating 50 then? Huh?
50 years.
But now it's going to be 50 years. In June. June 1st is already over. Prabhupada arrived in Montreal, I remember, at 12 o'clock on June 1st, 68. Okay, so he wants me to speak a little bit on my recollection, but to be honest, I can't recollect so much. Whatever little I can. Srila Prabhupada was an empowered representative of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had predicted, Prithipati Achitata Nagadika Sarvasa Pracharaka Vimurna. In every town and village of the world, my name will be sung. Our acharyas had good, full faith that this can be realized. Thakur Bhakti Vinod, whose disappearance day we celebrated a few weeks ago, he re-established the pure teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After the Lord's disappearance, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings had fallen in the wrong hands. They were all sahajiyas, flirting with women, and to be called a Vaishnava was an embarrassment in the Indian society. They were looked down. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur re-established the pure teachings, and he was a great visionary. He knew the Lord Chaitanya's prediction, if seriously endeavored, can be bought, can be made successful. He wrote nearly 100 books in English, Bengali, Oriya, including bhajans. And today ISKCON devotees sing these bhajans. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a book on the life of Lord Chaitanya. And in 1896, he sent that book to universities around the world. I don't know exactly how many universities, nobody knows that. And Montreal was on his list. He sent that book to McGill University in Montreal. And at least 1968, the book was there. Maybe it is still there, somebody should go and check it out. So Thakur Bhaktivinoda sent his book on the life of Lord Chaitanya to universities around the world, including McGill. Just imagine the book must have been printed on very good quality paper, because he sent it in 1896 and the book was still there till 1967-68. So he had predicted that very soon a powerful Maharathi, Maharathi means a general, will appear. And Thakur Bhaktivinoda made 3 predictions. Very soon a Maharathi will appear, the holy name will be chanted everywhere, and devotees from many countries, including Canada, would come to Bengal, along with the Bengali devotees, sit and chant the holy name. And he had prayed, please may the Lord send someone who can carry the movement forward after him. Thakur Bhaktivinoda also identified the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he corrected many of the ills that were prevailing in the Jagannath Puri temple. And he prayed, please may the Lord send someone who can carry the movement forward. Ray or Vishnu. So in response to this prayer, who did the Lord send? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was a Vaikuntha man. Prabhupada was speaking on his disciplinary day in London, and Prabhupada said, what can I speak? He was a Vaikuntha man. And it was in 1921 that Prabhupada first met him. At that time, Srila Prabhupada was the leader of Mahatma Gandhi's youth movement. Prabhupada's father's name was Gormande, and he was a middle class cloth merchant in Calcutta. But he was a great devotee, and he had a great desire to serve sadhus. He did not discriminate who was a genuine sadhu, who was not. And when the sadhus would be leaving, he would tell them, please bless my son. Then he becomes a big devotee of Radharani. And Prabhupada's mother was dreaming, may my son go to England to become an engineer. So Prabhupada had exposure to a lot of sadhus since his childhood. So in 1921, one of his friends, his name was Mr. Malik, he said, there's a very special sadhu in Calcutta, I want you to come and meet him. And Prabhupada said, I have met so many sadhus, but I'm not impressed by either of them. They're all the same. But he said, this sadhu is different. In Prabhupada's words, he actually dragged Prabhupada to meet Bhaktisiddhanta. Bhaktisiddhanta was an empowered personality. On seeing Prabhupada, he could identify, he is that person who can fulfill Lord Chaitanya's prediction. So he told Prabhupada, "You're an educated young man. Why don't you take these teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the Western world and to Pandya?" So Prabhupada had about $25 in his pocket when he landed in New York. On the journey to New York, Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks on 2 successive nights. But they were not major, fortunately. And after the second heart attack, Prabhupada was thinking, now my mission will not be successful. Maybe I should go back. And I'll go back as soon as I reach New York. As soon as Prabhupada reached New York, he booked his passage back to India. But on the 3rd night, Prabhupada had a dream, his son. Then, Butler was a small town. And in this small town, everybody knew everybody. The main factory there was a jeep factory that made jeeps for the US Army. So, Gopal Agarwal was an Indian, and his wife was Sally Agarwal. She was an American. So everybody was following Sally Agarwal and saying, "Who is that Swami who is staying in your house?" It was a small town. So Sally Agarwal got a little tired. She said, she arranged a press conference. So and next day, there was a paper called, read that article. And he said, he phoned Mrs. Sally Agarwal. "I understand that you have a Sanskrit scholar staying in your house. Can you invite him to give a lecture to the American students?" So she asked Prabhupada. But Prabhupada was just staying in her house all day. Prabhupada was planning his movement. So she asked Prabhupada, "There's an invitation to address American students from a college. Would you like to go?" Prabhupada said, "Of course, that's what I'm here for." So Prabhupada went and gave his first lecture to American students. And after the lecture, Prabhupada would always say, "Any questions? Call it International Society for God Consciousness." And Prabhupada said, "No, God is not specific." So he insisted on Krishna. The second temple opened in San Francisco, and the third temple was opened in Montreal on 3720 Park Avenue. There was a devotee called Janardhan. He was a French Canadian, and he was doing his PhD at McGill. He got connected to the movement in New York in '66, and he played a big role in helping open the first temple. And they were what, 1967. And I just asked a friend, "Is there any temple?" Because there were no temples in those days. So someone told me, some American hippies have opened a temple. In those days we only had American devotees. So I came to the temple on Park Avenue. I remember it was a Sunday. And the kirtan would never stop. They would start kirtan. You would hear it stopping. Again it would start. It went on for nearly 3-4 hours. I was really embarrassed. I wanted to go, but I didn't want to leave the kirtan in the middle. So I came, and then in the last week of May, I received a card that our spiritual master is coming to Montreal on June 1st, '68. So I came back to meet Prabhupada. And I think it was May 31st, which again was a Sunday, I remember, and where devotees were preparing for Prabhupada's arrival. Prabhupada was supposed to arrive on June the 1st. Someone should look up the calendar. I think June the 1st, 68 was a Monday. Any high-tech devotees here? You can go back and look at that. Can you check it out on your computer? June 1st, 1968. What day of the week was it? So anyway, I asked the devotees if there's anything I can do. They told me, go and clean Prabhupada's apartment. So, my first assignment was cleaning Prabhupada's apartment till about late in the night. And then when I came to the temple, devotees served banana milk. Those days they used to serve banana milk every night in ISKCON temple. Prabhupada stayed in Prince Arthur till August. And Prabhupada would come walk to the temple. 420 Prince Arthur was only a 5-minute walk from 3720 Park Avenue. You had to just cross the street. So I think his disciples must have invited him to go to Canada. That's how Prabhupada ended up in Montreal, because he was told that you have to stay out of the country to get your green card. So Prabhupada came to Montreal, and because Prabhupada was staying here, there were a lot of devotees coming and going, because everybody was, those days, to have access to Prabhupada was quite easy. So everybody was coming and getting guidance from Prabhupada. He liked Montreal. I remember he saw one building on the corner of Sherbrooke and Park Avenue, I think. Jayapataka Swami was here. At that time, I think the total budget of the temple was a few $100s. And the rent for Park Avenue. The temple on Park Avenue was a bowling alley. And the alley on which they would bowl was still there, at least at the time I left. I left in 71. And because Prabhupada was staying in Montreal, devotees from everywhere were coming to see him. Prabhupada would also do some engagements. In June 68 or July, there was a high school, there was an engagement in a Christian school. I met Prabhupada. Prabhupada was actually the first sadhu I met in my life. So I had really no exposure or no way to identify who is genuine and who is not. And this Mukherjee, he was studying in McGill also. He would come quite regularly. He told me, he said, I've touched the feet of many sadhus, but he is special. So anyway, Prabhupada gave a lecture at the school, and when he asked for questions, this Indian gentleman started insulting Prabhupada. So he said, this is a Christian country, why are you spreading this philosophy here? Anyway, he was quite critical. Devotees were very upset, and Prabhupada wanted to open the movement in England. Bhaktisiddhantaji had sent his disciples to England, but they came back without much success. So Prabhupada selected 3 Grihastha couples to go to England. They were Shyam Sundar Malati, Mukunda and his wife, and Gurudas and his wife. So these 3 couples came to Montreal, Those days, all the leaders of ISKCON were regularly coming to Montreal because Prabhupada was stationed here. So Prabhupada personally trained these three couples, told them, the other day, a few days ago, I was crossing the bridge in Calgary, and there was a man playing a guitar and singing to get money. So I told him, why did you sing the Hare Krishna melody? You're such a good singer. Oh, the Beatles, that's what they used to sing. It's still fresh in people's mind. So the Beatles were very big in England, and Shyam Sundar approached George Harrison, and slowly, the Beatles got very interested in Krishna consciousness. And then they produced a record, and that Apple record, Apple was how long he would stay on the planet. So Prabhupada wanted somebody to publish a Krishna book. He didn't have any money. So he told Shyam Sundar, why don't you ask George to pay for the printing of the Krishna book? And Shyam Sundar said, Prabhupada, he's a brand new devotee. If I ask him for money, he may leave us. Prabhupada said, don't worry, just ask him. George Harrison was approached by Shyam Sundar. Shyam Sundar said, my spiritual master has prepared a book, summary of the 10th canto, and he wants you to publish it. And the moment he said that, George said, okay, how much will it cost? And that's what it was written. In those days, every youth had to serve in the US Army. So Prabhupada Goswami did a job at an A&P store and then a coffee house in St. Catherine Street. I remember one story where I was told that he had a very menial job, sweeping the floor, cleaning the tables. So one rich man would come there every day. He had a Rolex watch, Mercedes car. So that rich man said, you're doing such a menial job and you always look smiling and happy. I have a car, wife, children, money, Rolex watch, but I'm still unhappy. Rooming house on Alimer Street. I remember, you go to the McGill University campus area, you go, have any of you been in that area? There are many small rooming houses where students rent a room or so. So Prabhupada came for a few days. So basically, Prabhupada gave a lot of lectures in Montreal. He would come on Sunday and I think he gave one Ramnami lecture or Janmashtami lecture. Montreal was very dear to Prabhupada. I wasn't here the second time when he came. He came again on Park Avenue after that. He came to the Pina Boulevard temple, to his spiritual master. And his spiritual master very much appreciated that offering. Especially that offering, he said, absolute is sentient, thou hast proved, impersonal calamity, thou hast removed. So in this stanza, Prabhupada is saying, my spiritual master, you have established that the Supreme is a person, and the so-called concept of impersonalism you have destroyed. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu staunchly opposed the impersonalists. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would forbid any of his associates, followers, to associate with Mayavadi. Because the Mayavadi concept, she said, there are some hurdles. Once you cross over the hurdles, your mission will be successful. Prabhupada was once sitting in New York on a bench, and next to him was one Mr. Rubin, He was a bus conductor. He was also sitting, sharing the bench. So Mr. Rupan asked Prabhupada, Swami, what's your business? What do you do? And Prabhupada said, I have temples, I have devotees. They're all there. Only time is separating us. And this was when Prabhupada had not opened the forest center also. So Prabhupada, when he saw the condition of the Americans, he could see that Krishnadas Kaviraj, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, says, don't even take my name, because if you take my name, all your good qualities will go away. And what is our position? Please take my name. And if you don't take your name, you feel offended. So Prabhupada is saying, I'm a user soul. I guess he has a business here. Otherwise, why would he bring me to this terrible place? Prabhupada says, my dear Lord, I'm a user soul. You brought me here. You can do what you like. But then he says, you must be having some business for me to do some understanding there is God and the religious principles. But in passion and ignorance, you just attach to your senses. Like Krishna says, happiness and passion, what is it? Bitter in the sweet in the beginning, bitter in the end, and which is derived of contact of the senses with sense objects. And what happens in ignorance? Beginning to end based on laziness and inaction. So Prabhupada says most of the population is covered by passion and ignorance. But I know that your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. The Prabhupada is acknowledging Krishna by his inconceivable powers. And Lord, make me dance, make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated Bhaktivedanta, and if you like, you can fulfill the real purpose of Bhaktivedanta. The Prabhupada in this poem, he writes how deeply the society is covered by illusion. But then he also said, by Radharani's causeless mercy, anything can become possible. So Prabhupada opened the third temple in Montreal, and then slowly, the Krishna conscious movement started expanding. And there was a devotee here called great trouble getting visa extensions in India. Because when they first came to India, at that time politically, India was close to the Soviet Union, and people in India were suspecting these are CIA agents. So Prabhupada had told the Commonwealth devotees, temples in Commonwealth countries, to send their manpower to India. So Prabhupada was a pure devotee who fulfilled Lord Chaitanya's prediction. And sometimes we meet people who say, oh, I'm so unlucky, I didn't meet Prabhupada. But the great Acharya lives through his Vani on Thakur Haridasa's, just like Krishna disappeared, but his Vani is there in the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. So similarly, the Acharya may disappear, but it leaves behind his Vani. So Prabhupada's Vani is there in Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada said, these books will be read for the next 10,000 years. And there's so many stories of how books have changed the lives of people. You got a book also, huh? So it's very important we read these books distribute these books, and if we want to save humanity. So we get associated with Prabhupada even today. Prabhupada dedicates his reading his books, developing humility and respect for the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Humility is an important ingredient on the spiritual path, and you can develop humility by recognizing, I am fool number one. Lord Chaitanya was a Sanskrit scholar at a young age. So Lord Chaitanya came to Varanasi, staying in the house of Chandrasekhar. And at that time, Varanasi is also known as Banaras, there was a big conference going on with 10,000 Mayavadi sannyasis and Prakashananda Saraswati. They were discussing, why this million of sons put together? So these sannyasis sitting on the higher stage would see, this sannyasi doesn't look ordinary. There's so much effulgence emanating from his face. So they asked him, why don't you sit down with us and study the Vedanta? What are they chanting like a madman? So he said, or Chaitanya, he said, my spiritual master considered me to be a fool. He said, this is all you're capable of doing. Chant Hare Krishna. And he said, I told my spiritual master, what have you given me? You gave me such a name that I can't stop chanting. You go to the Qazi every day, 10 times, 20 times. Please stop this Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. So the Qazi said, you come 100 times a day to tell me to stop. But whenever I see you chanting Hare Krishna, what is this nonsense? And he said, that's a fact. Since I got introduced to the Hare Krishna mantra, I just can't get it off my tongue. So that's the holy name. And like we were saying yesterday, our goal should be to get attached to the holy name. So if we sincerely make an effort, that's possible. And in the association of devotees, we have the environment to take guidance. We should be willing to take guidance, get instructed, and practice. Some people ask me questions, I told them to ask here. Asking questions is a sign of intelligence. Prabhupada, when he would lecture in Montreal, Jayapataka Brahmachari would ask a lot of questions. I think in 68, there were 8-9 American brahmacharis. Shivananda, Mahapurush, I can only remember these names. Then the Raktak, and later on Hansadutta came with Himavati, his wife, and Jayapataka came. I don't remember all the names. Yes, we had a devotee called, I was in charge of the French Bhakti Order, and Yasodananda, he later on became a sannyasi. Yasodananda, he was a young French Canadian. He just finished high school and he joined. I asked him to do the French Bhakti Order. And he was there. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. When did you come? Yeah, when did you join? When did you join?
When you met Prabhupada first time, how long you waited for initiation?
Well, I waited a little longer because I was a little scared of that. Actually, someone told Prabhupada that I spoke French. At that time my French was better than now. Because now I don't practice much. At that time I just come from France. So Niranjandas told Prabhupada that Gopal spoke French. So Prabhupada told me, we are going to France to open a temple, are you ready to go there? And I said, no, just... So I waited for 8-9 months. Okay.